Welcome back to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
And I'm Zane Courtney.
And we are here to entertain you related to anything EV, alternative energy, and anything that you guys can dream up in terms of questions. Again, when you ask us questions, tell us where you're from. We get people from all over the planet, and it's always fascinating to see who's up, and who's watching and what kind of interests they have.
Yeah, especially for everybody overseas who's in a completely different time zone. Whether you're on lunch break or you're just about to go to bed, thank you for joining us this morning.
So speaking of questions all over the planet, we do get Australians. In fact, my cousin, last show,
that was so
typed
cool.
up from Tasmania. I haven't talked to him in many, many years, but he watched our podcast and he says, "It's your cousin Peter from Tasmania." Anyway, the first news item I have for you is, it looks like the Model 3 dominance in Australia ended this year, or last year. Toyota Camry's 28-year run as the best-selling car in Australia ended, and Tesla took over. It was on path, actually, Toyota was, to make it 29 years. They delivered 9,538 units in Australia, but Tesla delivered 10,877 of the Model 3. And they delivered 1,800 of those just in the month of December last year. So it is apparently the first time that an electric car has held that title in Australia. It took Toyota by surprise. Excuse me, I need to clear my throat here. It took Toyota by surprise, since the automaker still listed the Camry as the best-selling medium car in the country in its press release, bragging about its dominance over the Australian auto market. Whoops.
I mean, it is the California Camry.
Yep.
And now it's not only the California Camry, it's also the Australian Camry. So, yeah, that's kind of funny. In fact, we've got an article coming up that kind of speaks to the same proportionate growth that EVs have had over the last year. The year-over-year percentage changes have been kind of insane. If we want to talk about that in a little bit. But you want to go ahead and answer a question on TikTok here?
Sure, looks like.
So from Smuggler on TikTok, that's right there. I didn't respond yesterday, but I saw 2 Model 3s on base with GSA tags. Do you think that will go 100% Tesla, go with a mix of electric? He's on a base in South Carolina.
A lot of government agencies, installations, municipalities, local, are experimenting with EVs right now. And there's some challenges. One of the ones that was pointed out was the police cars. What if they're in a high-speed chase? And they have to go a couple, 300 miles in order to chase down that felon, right? They're going to run out of juice at some point, and then what? The bad guy gets away. Fire truck, same thing. One alarm fire or one fire they could handle, but then they have to recharge. Well, you can't predict when those fires are going to occur. So there's a lot of experimentation going on right now, but it's, of course, it's a sensible thing to do, because the amount of maintenance required for an ICE vehicle fleet is far greater than having an EV fleet.
And in regards to having a mix of them, we've seen Rivians on base for NASA with Jeff Bezos going into space. We've seen, obviously, Tesla's going around Starlink, Starbase. So I think there's a good chance. And with the U.S. military having a contract with Canoe, they'll probably be around a lot more bases, either domestically or overseas as well.
Yes. Smuggler, by the way, is from South Carolina. But look at the next YouTube visitor we have.
From Jacob Sean from Hamburg, Germany.
By the way, we have a visitor and a guest this morning who also spent some time in Hamburg. Eileen is joining us, and we may get her behind camera here, and she'll certainly be able to talk German with whoever comes in from Germany.
Oh, that'd be tons of fun.
Do you remember the last, or not? It was the second to last podcast, I think. There was a Belgian that came in, and he was talking about certain things in his area.
Yes, yeah, and very cool.
I was reading that, and he was fascinated by my pronunciation of those names. It was like Kreuznach or something like that.
And you're like, well,
course,
yeah.
Yeah. So I pointed out, speaking German, those languages are very similar, so I'm able to do a better pronunciation, I
That's
guess.
so cool. You're way ahead of me on that. I speak English.
That's it.
Somewhat.
Yep.
I'm okay at it. I'm still
That's
figuring
not
that
uncommon in the U.S.
It's not
it's fairly common.
I'm still
actually.
figuring that one out. Stephen Rose on YouTube. Good morning from Boulder City, Nevada.
Cool. Welcome, Stephen. All right, so another news item. Tesla apparently is finalizing the deal to build production facilities in Indonesia with a capacity of 1 million cars. This is according to a Bloomberg article. So it looks like Tesla continues to expand. Lots of new plants scheduled. We've got Texas, we've got Mexico coming up. So it looks like expansion is definitely part of their strategy.
Now, I did see some responses to that article, and it turns out it's still kind of up in the air about that because Indonesia doesn't really have the same benefits that a place like Mexico or even down south in South America would have, close to the lithium mines in Chile, which we'll probably talk about here in a little bit. And you obviously still have Giga Berlin, you still got Giga Shanghai, all these different facilities. Indonesia, it's a good middle ground. It definitely connects us more into the Pacific, but whether or not they'll actually go through with that, still kind of up in the air. But hey, if it happens, it happens. So it'd be really cool if it does.
So staying with that expansion strategy that Tesla has, there apparently is also a lithium refinery that's being built in Corpus Christi, Texas. It's a graveled road right now, but the sign's been erected. What they mean by sign is the permitting process you have to post, for some time. And of course, people are reading it, and it names Tesla as being the owner of the property. And but they feel that in November 2022, apparently, one of these magazine reporters visited this piece of property. At that time, there wasn't much construction activity yet, but the site was leveled and not cluttered with buildings or anything else. And back then, they felt that construction would start in a relatively short time. So what this will be is it's a lithium refinery. And remember, we don't have vast reserves of lithium in the United States. The biggest refinery or the biggest cache of lithium is actually Chile in South America. And so it's going to have to be transported. Can we throw up that picture of the lithium mine?
And actually, to that, it's not that we don't have large deposits, it's that they're untapped. Because you remember that lake that's in Nevada that does have large deposits of lithium that are in those waters there. And they're trying to come up with a facility that's able to extract that from that water more efficiently. But the problem right now is, of course, there's a lot of zoning things, there's a lot of red tape, and on top of that, it is a lot of infrastructure that they'll need to put in to keep continuing that.
I don't have an image in the folder.
It's called Lithium Mine. It's the one with all of the brine ponds.
Yeah, and for people who may not be familiar with how lithium's extracted, you were telling me about it a little bit ago, but it's not a metal per se. You don't dig it out of a mountain per se. You get it from salt.
Yeah, it's actually a salt and brine ponds. So it doesn't require mining. It is pumped up above ground, and then from there the sun does its thing, and it actually evaporates the water away, and then they scrape up what's remaining and lithium salts.
Which does require a lot of water, granted. But when you have it in a place like a lake,
It's up there now.
then
It
it's,
is. Okay, there we go, yeah.
beautiful.
And the variety of colors have to do with the stages of evaporation. The
It's
darker,
kind of cool, isn't it?
yeah, the darker, the more salts you have, or the more exposed salts. Cost of batteries too, these lithium batteries, it turns out that there is no one raw material that accounts for the cost of the batteries, including lithium. The largest reserves are Chile. It puts South America ahead of Australia, who has 2.7 million tons. And Argentina, 2 million tons, and China with 1 million tons. Now remember, this may seem troublesome because what happens when we run out of the mining, and we've exhausted some of these mines, even though it's not mined, it's brined.
Yeah, right. Right.
Remember that lithium-ion
Industrial
batteries
brining complex.
are successfully recycled, and it is close to 100% recycling process. And the final thing is, the lithium battery technology and chemistry is going to go away. It is a temporary method of storing large amounts of DC energy in some form. But there are far better ways to do it, and eventually lithium will begin to go away.
It's nice to know that companies like Redwood Materials, we always talk about them on this show because they play such an important part in that, where, yeah, we'll have to increase a little bit of the mining practices that we do now, but not that much relatively compared to how much that we can recycle and put back into the system. So it's tons of exciting stuff.
So a common question that gets asked is, despite dozens of potential lithium mines in the United States and Canada, why isn't it mined here? Well, because most of them are in various stages of developments, years away from production, and a lot of environmental lawsuits delaying development. This is reminiscent of Germany when they were trying to get Berlin up and running. I mean, there were people out in the woods saying that some frogs and toads were going to be affected by this plant, delaying the project. But the good news is we may not need it as battery technology continues to improve.
And also, one last thing on this, because I'm thinking about it. So we've confirmed that Corpus Christi is getting some more Tesla infrastructure, but a lot of that mining, the lithium mining and things like that, that happened just down south of Mexico, obviously in South America. So it could be, and we've seen recently that Mexico is gearing up for its own Tesla infrastructure. So we could see a full chain going right up and down from South America to Central up in North America of a full refinery experience that's going to be able to provide that demand. Very interesting.
So it looks like Tesla's Yoke wheel is back in the news.
When
if you remember, the Tesla Model Plaid came out, and you suddenly had a half a steering wheel.
Well, now everybody's copying it. The Polestar 3's got a Yoke as well. I think the ID7 does too, something weird.
Again, some people loved it and some people hated it. We have one customer here that lives on Camelback Mountain, and he's got a lot of switchbacks to get up there. And he finds it frustrating because it's difficult to do multiple turns on a Yoke steering wheel. If you're doing this, it's quite handy.
It's great for going straight.
And that's why the race cars like Formula One cars have Yoke steering wheels. It leaves your entire all the instrumentation is visible, and you're not doing U-turns on a racetrack. But anyway, it turns out that Tesla has been listening, and they have added the standard steering wheel as an option when people are buying the Model S and Model X refresh cars, the newer versions.
Okay.
However, if you think that you're going to get something for free if you've got a Yoke wheel, you can get a regular steering wheel, but it's going to cost you $700 to go back to that steering wheel if you've never had it before on your car.
So if you already own a Model S or X that has the Yoke, and you want to refurbish it, it'll cost you $700.
Exactly.
With the amount of tech that goes into those things, that's relatively reasonable, I'd say. I know that sounds great. I know that's a lot of money.
Easy for him to say, right?
Mr. Moneybags. No, I mean $700 is a lot for a steering wheel. Yeah. Nobody's going to kid themselves on that. But for for that kind of refurbish. And since you're not going in and custom ordering it that way, just because of the way that Tesla's building these vehicles kind of makes sense. They kind of need to keep these service centers up and running, since not too many people are getting their batteries fully replaced. They'll do it within warranty, but not with the $22,000 price tag on post-warranty.
Yep. It looks like Man Keatonus is back from
Hey!
YouTube. Welcome.
Good to see you again.
Hello, nice to see you. And then we got a TikTok question.
We got a couple of comments from Chris Lito 682. I like combustion race cars. Me too. But thank God for you guys. It's about time we had electric vehicles. No more push rods. We need to complete infrastructure, charging stations, and mechanics. We agree. And I've been into a lot of shops, and yours is very professional, and everything is in order.
Thank you.
So it was a very nice compliment.
We have some videos coming out here shortly, a collaboration with Benpack. The largest automotive lift manufacturer in the U.S. is going to be filming next week, and they're going to do a lot of shots inside our shop. So I'm sure some more information about our infrastructure will be available. But by the way, that comment resonates with me. I think that if ICE vehicles were confined to racetracks, this planet would probably be just fine. It's the hundreds of millions of cars that are out on the open roads heating up the planet that we have a problem with. And if you think about it, those of us that like going to car races, It's the noise is part of the experience.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's room for it all, guys. I mean, we don't need to go completely one way or the other. Like, there's room for it all. If you're a guy who needs that tactile, mechanical experience, that'll always be there. But yeah, it's also, a nice, convenient push that we're pushing for when it comes to electricity, because now, hey, it just works better for most people in their situations. So yeah, it's good to have it all, I think.
Yeah.
One thing to let the audience know, with the Ben Pack videos that we'll be doing next week, we will not be crashing a helicopter like Whistling Diesel did.
They will be professionally done, yes. So it looks like we've got a question about some degradation. I think we need to pop up that question a little bit. There we go.
Here we go.
TikTok user, and about 15 numbers after it, so I won't read all those. But he says, good morning, guys. My 2019 SR and M3 has gone from 215 miles at 100% state of charge to 197 miles from 60,000 miles, 65,000, somewhere in there. He says, should I be concerned?
5,000
that's
miles?
Yeah, that's a normal degradation for 60,000 miles. And of course, you don't want to charge to 100% because that compromises the battery. So stay away from the extreme ranges, stay in the middle of the road, and your battery will continue to thrive.
It is also standard range, so I think that's not, it's not a larger pack or anything like that. It's kind of, bare bones. Not bare bones, but
this may be the first time we've had this question from TikTok. Mike Gordon, 3131, he says, what's with the sunglasses?
No one's ever asked about the
No,
sunglasses.
I don't think so. And the suspicions are we're hungover.
We've gotten that. We've gotten that we're fake. My favorite answer that we've given so far that may or may not be true is the fact that we're actually just AI. That's we're completely computer generated.
And our eyes are looking way too much electronic. It would spook people.
There's too much code going on behind the glass.
Again, though, my favorite one is I was doing videos over at GMC, and I always wear sunglasses, and somebody said, he sure moves fast for a blind man. That has to be my favorite comment of all. But staying with the sunglasses for a moment, we encourage everyone watching to put on your own sunglasses, and you may see why we have sunglasses. That's as much as we want to say about that.
Not only that, Gruber sunglasses on the way.
Are they really?
We're working on those.
Is that real news?
Is
this real breaking news?
Still very, very, very tentative news, but yes.
Yep.
But it can happen very soon. Well, I'm happy about that.
And
you guys have been killing the game. We got Spotify, we're getting glasses.
There will be a big reveal at some point in time. And we will do a video that explains why we wear sunglasses at Gruber Motor Company.
Now, all of you guys that have been sticking around for the last, 15, 20 episodes, that we are committed to fulfilling this promise.
So we keep talking about batteries improving, EV batteries, and they must improve because, who wants to carry around 1,200 pounds in a car?
Can't say I do.
Yeah, and what's amazing is despite carrying 1,200 pounds around, these things do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. We talked about that in the last podcast. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds is the same speed that you attain when you jump off a cliff. It's a free-falling speed.
Terminal velocity?
Exactly, yes. But anyway, technology continues to improve. CATL, CATL, which is a Chinese cell manufacturer company, fairly well known, a lot of the EV manufacturers use them, is now has a breakthrough new battery technology that offers 1,000 kilometers on a single charge, which is about 621 miles. They will start production on this battery pack next year, and they call it the Quilin pack. Quilin is named after a legendary creature in Chinese mythology, and it will offer a efficiency of 72% and an energy density of 460 kilojoules for those of you that are engineering minded and need those kind of specifications.
You know, it'd be really cool when we get to a point where you can just swap different kinds of batteries in different cars, because we're not there obviously right now, and battery swap tech has kind of been controversial. It's kind of funny. Yeah, actually, I've kind of gone back and forth on it myself, where yeah, it'd be nice to, just go ahead and buy the battery. You don't have to swap batteries in your iPhone, right? And you can do that. But at the same time, if we have better battery tech that comes out, why not scale with it?
Yeah.
Why not keep my car and keep and get the new battery tech to go with it? So it's kind of nice to know that we're coming out with a lot more options, and maybe one day we'll be able to just kind of hot swap them in.
That is coming. It's such a disruptive technology that, well, the other thing you have is planned obsolescence, like you mentioned your phone. Well, you're not going to want to keep that phone for the life of that battery because so much better technology keeps coming out. So we're in a throwaway society.
Right.
Now, that won't happen with cars, of
cost-effective.
course, but yeah. With cars, I think the next shift is going to be, like you said, scalable batteries. It already happened in the critical power world. We went to scalable UPSs a decade or two ago, and it made much more sense because now you were able to actually increase the size of what you purchased to meet the growth demands in your company, rather than buying a new box every time you exceeded the capacity of what you bought initially.
That's especially cool with power because we see that with computation technology. I mean, ask anybody who builds computers, ask anybody who works with IT in the first place. I mean, it scales what? It's like 100% every year over year. So a terabyte now will cost half as much as it in a year as it does now. Something like that, just because they're able to keep crunching and crunching and crunching all this data together. So it's cool to know what's happening with power.
Smuggler.
Hey, Smuggler. This is a great question that we get all the time. Are you guys planning an East Coast shop?
No. And the reason is finding people to do this type of work is still a daunting task. Again, we can't just simply go to a competing dealership and hire a mechanic or two. Mechanics can't do the type of work that we do. You need 3 skills: software, electronics, and wrenching or mechanical skills. And finding all 3 skills in one package has been a huge issue for us. We're able to home grow our people, but at this point we're going to confine our growth to Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm sure there will be other shops that will emerge in those areas to fill the void.
And Pete?
Yeah.
We will have a video coming out. We already have a video for those that want to go watch it. Called Mechanic of the Future from a little over a year ago, but we'll be having an updated Mechanic of the Future video coming out here in the next month or so as well.
Hey.
And it is well worth watching, by the way. If you go to our YouTube channel, we've got, I think, 150, 200 videos out there, and it addresses a lot of these questions that we get asked during the podcast usually. But the Mechanic of the Future is a good one, and the updated version will be even better.
I sent an opportunity to create the Gruber University. Of electronics repair and vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, that's a whole nother business opportunity.
Hey, yeah, a lot of great questions coming in, guys. Thank you so much for sending these in. These are tons of fun. From James Burris on TikTok, I got a Model Y, do about 2,000 miles a month. Have to use superchargers twice a day. Any suggestions? I guess it'd be nice to know if you charge at home, and did you buy it new or used? And if you did buy it used, what was the odometer at? What was the degradation like?
Using a supercharger twice a day will affect the battery to some extent. But, people trade in cars. So just don't keep it or plan on keeping it for 15 years.
Although, they've been aging particularly nicely. I keep window shopping for 2015 Model S. 7 years old, and still a lot of them still look really good, even after years of continued use.
I think we're streaming so many questions, we're getting encouraged to start answering more.
Let's
we need to engage with our audience.
All right, here we go. Stephen Rose on YouTube. We got a new Model S. Just love the Yoke steering wheel. Took a few days to get used to it. Hey, some people love it, some people hate it. I think it depends on, if you live with a lot of switchbacks, things like that.
And then we got TikTok, Jose Candelario. He says, in all capital letters, "I love the glasses. I don't care. Thank you."
We love you. Oh, it's from YouTube. Perfect. Well,
YouTube, okay.
Hey, we love you. We love you guys too. Everybody. Chris Baker on, was that TikTok? Oh, YouTube. Chris Barker on YouTube. As Tesla's installed base grows, will third-party firms arrive that support battery swaps? Will battery swaps go down over time? Currently, it seems a Model 3 battery is 8 to 10K from Tesla. So yeah, this is talking about Tesla getting into the battery swap game.
Sure.
Which they experimented with early on. They considered doing that and they decided against it.
It's a logistics nightmare. There are a couple of Chinese companies that are embarking on that. I think BYD is one of them.
BYD is the big one.
Yeah.
And actually, this is probably a good time to talk about Project Arrow. They were at CES and they've been kind of making some waves since they got announced there. But it's a Canadian company, and essentially what they've done is actually extended the range by, I forget, it was a significant percentage of charging time and charging speed. And they did it really by taking the charger out of the car. And they made it external so that you just have a machine that's capable of pumping in the electricity and it just goes straight into the battery. It's something interesting. I haven't looked enough into it, but it's something like that that's really cool. So maybe there's something like that that'll be the...
So from TikTok, rather insignificant. He said, "What is this?" Talking about the show and what's with the glasses. All right. Well, the show
Ask,
is...
what was his name, Jose?
It's alternative energy. It's EVs. It's anything related to planet-saving initiatives. And we'd love to hear from you guys. What are your ideas? And our goal is to convince you that we need to move away from fossil fuel burners and begin to convert transportation to electric.
We're trying to keep our finger on the pulse for all the disruptive technology coming out.
Now, Smuggler has a very good reason why we're wearing sunglasses, and this is probably one of the better ones to date. He says it's to prevent the lasers from their eyes from killing us. So it gets back to the suspicion that we may be AI
my
and
alternative
only taking
energy
on
beams.
a human form here.
It's like Cyclops from X-Men. He's got to wear the glasses to shield his eyes.
We
So
had
James
some
Burris.
speculation earlier with the first comment as well. People were speculating that it might be the lights or our future is just too bright.
Might be a little bit of both.
future's too bright,
Light
yeah.
going in, light coming out. Who knows? We'll find out eventually.
James Burris, TikTok. I do charge at home, 2022, new Y Performance. So he's got a Model Y. Okay.
All right.
All right. I have some data here for you regarding a question from Cora. Are lithium iron phosphate batteries, and the acronym there is not LIP, but LFP. The F becomes ferro for iron. Are LFP batteries planned to be used in Teslas more efficient than the lithium-ion batteries? The simple answer is no, not at all. The efficiency of both cells is very similar between lithium iron and lithium ion. Both are near, both are near 95%. The differences are the lithium iron cells, or LFP cells, are about a third heavier and higher volume than the lithium ion cells of the same capacity. Well, size is important, weight is important. We already have 1,200 pounds in an 85D Model S. LFP cells, and here's the offset, have about twice the life cycle of lithium ion cells, so they last longer. Second benefit is the LFP cells are less flammable than lithium ion cells, and everybody knows, in fact, in the last podcast we talked about a Lucid that got in an accident in Florida, hit a brick wall, and neighbors saw 30-foot flames shooting out the top of the car. That was a lithium ion battery pack. LFP cells can be charged repeatedly to 100% without harming them. Of course, lithium ion, we already talked about that. Take it to a supercharger too much, it's not going to like it as much. LFP cells can be fast charged almost to 100%. And again, they say that the extra weight is a big downside, but the other factors are positive. So what it looks like what Tesla is going to do to offset the supply chain problems, they're going to be using LFP cells for mid-range vehicles, which frees up the lithium-ion cells for the long-range cars.
That's
and
a
of
good
course
idea.
the semi.
I was about to say, the semi sounds like it's a really good place to keep some of these lighter cells so that they can carry more and make it more efficient. Plus, then you can swap it out more easily. Everybody wins. And that way, for all of us that are driving around constantly in a little car, hey, you can add a couple more pounds and increase the range.
It looks like an Instagram question came in, and we don't see as many of those, but the question was, do you have a physical location in Phoenix? Yes, we're at 203 West Lone Cactus up here in North Phoenix, just south of Deer Valley Air Park. And by the way, any of you interested in seeing an auto shop of the future, and there are very few of them on this planet at this point, we invite you to come up and get a free tour. I personally leave my office every time a visitor comes, and it happens daily actually, and I'll go over there and I will take you on a tour and show you all the magic that happens in an auto shop that is focused on fixing electric vehicles.
And heck, with more people touring, maybe we'll even find more help. Maybe we can get more mechanics. How cool would that be? From Manketness on YouTube, I've got a Model S 85D non-performance from 2015. Hey, I've been looking at those. Really satisfied with it. Until now, had no problems. I like to drive it as long as possible. Are you aware of any vehicle-specific issues that may still be coming my way?
Well, when you say still be coming your way, it sounds like you may have already gotten through the warranty replacement door handles.
Right.
Those are going to fail. Then you've got the window regulators. The Achilles heel could be in a 2015 a battery issue. If you're taking good care of your battery, maybe you can dodge that bullet. Now, again, people ask us how many cars are involved, how many have problems. We're like a hospital. We see only sick people. So to us, it looks like everybody on the planet is ill. Same with the cars that come to our shop. Every one of them has a problem. It's difficult for us to give a comparative analysis. So you're really going to have to Google that and look at some statistics that have been collected and published.
With my window shopping for actually specifically 2015 Model S's, and I see mostly 70Ds, 75Ds, but a lot of them also still have some just little trim things here and there. But I think you nailed it with the battery thing. I'd say if you're still under warranty, get that checked out, see if there's any repairs that need to be done, and then you should be good to go.
TikTok, Wilcox87, good question. How can EV growth be sustainable if the technicians to repair the vehicles are in short supply? Well,
great question.
Yes. Our prediction is that the manufacturers will be forced to put AI in the cars. In other words, to make the cars much smarter, make them self-diagnosing. And then the skill level required at the service center level is going to not be as heavy as what the type of work that we do, which is chip chase, troubleshoot down a component level. It's the only answer, because if you look at the number of EV manufacturers that are on the planet now and popping up weekly almost, they're not going to be able to build their service delivery network quickly enough to meet the demand of the vehicles that are out there driving. And you have a lot of new vehicles, a lot of new EVs that will have warranty issues. Again, as we've pointed out many times, you cannot predict all the failures that will occur in a new product during validation testing at the plant, in the factory. A lot of this stuff happens after people start driving it and get a few miles on it. So the future is going to be smarter cars, self-diagnosing, and then a checklist basically when you go to a service center, and it becomes a process of elimination. You swap till you drop.
We're already headed in that direction since cars are really just becoming computers on wheels.
Yeah.
So, and the majority of people nowadays, a lot of people are still kind of uncomfortable with doing their own tech work, but most people are. You can tend to Google how to fix something pretty easily and then troubleshoot it from there. But so a lot of good hope there. Smuggler on TikTok, how long into the future will it take for EVs to get to the point where they're convenient for road trips, like an ICE vehicle with just 15-minute stops to recover 400 miles? This is something we like to talk about, but I think especially when it comes to road trips, its use case, EVs really just are better for in-town commuting. That way you can get all the driving that you need while you're in town, even beyond just going to work and back. For road tripping, especially depending on how much you road trip, I mean, if you're only going once a year, don't worry about how much time it takes. We've seen that with some of the people that'll do those cannonball runs. Right. The guys who did it in the Tesla, the guys who did it in the Ioniq 5, they'll all tell you that if you're only road tripping like that once a year or something like that, it's not so bad to add a couple of hours to the overall experience.
So with an EV, what you do is you integrate your vacation time into your travel time. So make sure that you plan for some stops and make sure that those are near superchargers or some sort of charging method. Now, again, it's a short-lived problem. Where the technology is headed is toward inductive charging or inductive coupling charging. What that means is you're not going to have plug-in cars anymore. As you're driving, you're charging. And of course, we have cars like the Aptera, which are actually capturing the solar rays, and Fiskars. Eventually, that technology will get to a point where it's completely sustainable, and you'll get enough energy just from that medium where you don't need to plug in anywhere. So now you can drive cross country and not stop if you choose not to.
I mean, if you try to go, if we try to provide inductive coupling across all of those highways, that'd be really cool. I was even thinking just if you keep it just to cities. If we had every street in a city capable of inductive charging, then that also gets rid of that fear of a fire truck losing power if it's fully electric, because then it's just going to be charging the whole time.
Cool.
So, good stuff. Chris Barker on YouTube, Gruber Motors should do a joint video with the JR Garage channel, also in Phoenix. They are in Phoenix.
Guys, we need to look them up.
Well, we got to say hi. Hey, JR Garage, hit us up. We'd love to get to say hi.
Yeah, what he's saying, they have Tesla, Rivian, and Fiskars in their stable.
Yes, they do.
All right, so there's our next collaboration, guys. We'll contact those guys and either bring them here or we go there.
We'll reach out.
Thank you for the tip, Chris. Appreciate it.
I think they're in Phoenix. That sounds right. They're probably, I think they're down in, if I remember that right, I don't know if they're in Phoenix proper or they might be in like Tempe Mesa.
Looks like Bill Wood came back from
Hey,
TikTok. Bill,
come on, Bill.
We did a very short podcast yesterday, and Bill was one of the faithful that actually popped in. It was that movie or that video that we did, and it was all of maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Nice.
Thank you for joining us, Bill, by the way. He says, I have a 2016 Model X 75P. My range is 215 now. How low will my battery go before I need to replace it? You know, in theory, you could run that battery down to just a few miles. Of course, no one's going to do that.
Yeah, right.
Where the danger occurs is if you get rapid decline in mileage, because now that indicates the battery management system or safety systems are sensing a resistive cell and they're adjusting the charge rate to that lowest cell. And that will kill the car fairly quickly. Typically, with a resistive cell, what we see in roadsters is they die within about 3 to 6 months, or quicker. Sometimes we've had some people that every time they charge, they lose 10 miles. And with a car that only charges to 150 to 180 miles, that happens fairly quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So you're right. It's a very steep curve as soon as it starts to go down. But
Quick decline, yeah.
Yeah, with something like that, and we had that other Model Y degradation question earlier. It just comes to the amount of, if all is well, if the battery works, it's just going to be a matter of how much energy you're really sucking in and putting out of that battery.
Sure.
With supercharging and so on.
So this morning, as I was going through some of the agenda items, I mentioned to Zane that it looks like Mazda is coming out with their MX-30 EV. And you were telling me that that was already attempted.
It was, and it did not go well. If anybody who's familiar with the CX-30 knows, it did not get a lot of positive press over the last year, mostly due to the fact that it's still a mid-sized crossover with a very small battery. They basically just tried to rush into the market with something they think would sell. Didn't really. There's no particular tech features or safety features that makes it appealing for the most people either, even though, sure, it's kind of a more entry-level vehicle. For what you get out of that, there are just better options. A used Tesla usually falls under that 20,000 range, or excuse me, under 30. It's just not really cost-effective to get a car like that compared to some of the other competitors. I mean, especially with the Bolt EUV, even the Kia EV, the Niro EV.
So what was intriguing about this car was it was targeted as a $34,000 EV. And we're all looking for that sub $30,000 EV because at that point in time, we feel that the EV adoption rate is going to accelerate because now that car is cheaper than most ICE vehicles.
Well, the Bolt exists. It is still sub 30 as at MSRP.
So CES, the Consumer Electronics Show up in Vegas, I was amazed. I didn't go, and I didn't realize it would be full of EVs and charging systems.
Well, yeah,
It used to be truly consumer electronics. I mean, we're talking vacuum cleaners, maybe some PCs.
And cars are becoming consumer electronics.
Very much so, yes. But apparently, the visitors were able to use a boring company tunnel to get in between the Las Vegas Convention Center sites. And if you've ever gone, I used to go to Comdex, and it was just huge. I mean, people everywhere, and it took you 20 minutes to 40 minutes to get between the various buildings. Apparently, with this loop going underground, it was 2 minutes, and the wait time was less than 10 seconds. One of the visitors said, "I love the Las Vegas loop experience. It's fast, fun, and free between the convention halls."
That's very cool.
I remember when I had to walk or ride share it. Now I can network longer and visit more exhibitors because of the time that it saves me. Now, to give you some perspective on this loop is a 1.7 mile tunnel. I didn't realize it was that large. It was built in approximately 1 year, and they used the GODOT tunnel boring machine. The cost of this tunnel was $47 million, which really doesn't sound like a lot. I mean, a bridge here in South Phoenix will cost at least that or more.
Yeah, true.
So there are a couple of entrances, and it connects a number of these buildings. The number of people that actually moved through this tunnel during CES was 14 to 17,000 passengers per day, with a ride time of less than 2 minutes. I saw a video with Kyle Connor, one of the influencers, and he was inside a Model Y, I think it was, filming or videotaping, and it was like a white tube, and this thing was just flying through there. And the next thing you know, they're you know, getting out of the car, and he's at the building that he was looking for, which was the EV building. But it looks like these tunnels are definitely viable, and I'd love to see them in some of the other you know, metropolitan areas.
It truly feels like it's the next step of what trains and buses are, right? Where you have these passenger cars that are being used, you know, either privately, or you can just have them in a network that can fly through some new tunnels and get them shipped out that way. So it really is kind of a nice middle ground. Could also, you know, disrupt both of those industries. I mean, how many people are taking passenger trains in the U.S.?
Yeah. Well, I think you're hinting that other countries are much further ahead than we are with concepts like this, and we're intrigued by it because it's new to us.
And the reality is that's true. Japan is well known for their bullet trains and the quality experiences that go on there. Germany always has some neat stuff, mostly in those Alpine, or the not Alpine.
Well, they have tunnels through the Alps, yeah.
Yeah, they do. And they've had railway systems for many, many years.
And you know, the problem with the tunnels through the Alps is sometimes they're many kilometers long, and you have all these ICE vehicles, and I know they have ventilation systems that are supposed to exhaust all those fumes, but if you're in a traffic jam, which is not that uncommon, I mean, you're sitting there and you're breathing carbon monoxide, and it's not a pleasant experience.
There's a whole Doctor Who episode about that.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild.
All right, so here's one that bugged me. This is another press release. First ever electrified Chevrolet Corvette hybrid. What are these guys thinking? I mean, a hybrid means
It's the best of both worlds.
you have an ICE component, right? Internal combustion engine, which is already extremely high maintenance compared to EV, and then you throw an EV into that mix as well. What's the point? Unless they're trying to preserve some noise, which of course, you know, all of these exotic cars will eventually no longer be making any noise.
It also defeats the purpose of most people who buy these exotic cars. They do it for the noise.
Yeah. So this is an upcoming C8 Chevrolet Corvette hybrid that they have now dubbed the Corvette E-Ray. And the specs are, it's going to have an 8-cylinder engine, 6.2 liter, which is good for about 500 horsepower. And then the rest of the horsepower is going to be in the electric wheels up front, so front and rear motor. So we're going to get essentially a Prius on steroids.
Yep. They keep trying to make these big angry Priuses. Even Toyota with the Tundra has tried to make a big angry Prius. And it's kind of funny because, yeah, I mean, it sounds great on paper, especially something like a plug-in hybrid. It sounds like the perfect mix between the two. People who want that security of having a gas engine that can provide power for the battery. Cool, in theory, until it breaks, which is almost inevitable because that's just how those powertrains go. Now, of course, that happens in trains too, so who knows how much that actually breaks. Considering that, you know, these big diesel locomotives are in fact exactly that. They've got electric powertrains that are connected to a battery, that connect to an inverter that's powered by a generator, a gas generator. And you would think that, you know, having a big truck would be cool to have that sort of a thing. In a Corvette? We're putting that in a Corvette?
Yeah. I don't
Doesn't seem right.
Hey, real quick, guys, I got to interrupt you and give out some. Somebody wanted more info on the CATL real quick.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to pull up the website so you guys can keep going. I'm going to pull that up in the background. We don't have a whole lot more detailed information ourselves, but I'll show you. There's a video and a bunch of stuff for the audience that is requesting
Cool.
that.
Yeah, we don't have much more information. Usually what we do is we grab the headlines and the early news, and then as it evolves,
then we'll get
share
to
that
kind
in
of
the
flesh it
future
out,
podcasts,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of that, in 2022, Audi, all right, German manufacturer, stable, rock solid, incumbent, you know, been around a long time, curious about this EV adoption, and they're jumping on the bandwagon.
e-tron's been pretty great as far as everyone who owns one's concerned.
They have increased the amount of EVs 44% last year.
Oh.
Now, just to put that in perspective, they sold last year 118,000 electric models, but they sold 1.61 million vehicles total last year. So it's still a smaller percentage compared to their ICE commitment, but the fact that they increased by 44% indicates to me that they're taking EVs seriously.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of new models too, by the way. There's the Audi Q4 e-tron, Audi e-tron GT Quattro, Audi e-tron period, and then Audi Q8 e-tron. So they're paying attention and they're converting. What we talk about constantly is, will an incumbent like this that has decades of production facilities and tooling set up be able to pivot and move into an EV space? Because so much of that EV is different. They look the same, 4 tires, cabin, windows, that type of thing, windshield wipers. But there's a substantial difference between those two types of vehicles and the production processes, but more importantly, the skill level of the people building those cars. So although we would like to see all of them survive, there may be some casualties as this adoption rate continues.
Yeah, I've got more faith in Audi just because they have been killing it with the e-tron. Again, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, everybody that's had experiences with e-trons tend to have either no problems with them or very, very few. So they tend to be really nice luxury vehicles, so we're probably going to see a lot more of them in that space. It's also worth noting that out of the million cars that they sold last year, EVs sold 10% of that, about 118,000, I think it was. And to someone on paper, they think, 10%. Okay, that's a chunk. It's a good chunk. But that's after a 40% year-over-year increase. So if we're expecting to, we're expected to see that go up maybe 40% this next year, especially with the success of the e-tron, because it is, functionally a pretty cool, good car as far as I'm aware.
Now, staying with that German auto manufacturer concept for a moment, Tesla actually did what it wasn't able to do in 2021, and that was to overtake BMW to claim the title as the top luxury brand for U.S. in 2022.
Wow.
This also marks, this is another notable milestone, the first time that a U.S. auto manufacturer has held this title in 25 years. The Germans dominated this, and the Japanese.
Well, sure.
So the stats are, in 2021, Tesla sold just 23,000 fewer vehicles than BMW in the U.S., but in 2022, they flipped. According to estimates now, they sold more than 491,000 cars in the U.S. last year, 59% higher than what they were able to sell in 2021.
59%.
And that is a whopping 158,000 more than BMW, which sold 332,000 in the same period.
Wow.
And they were actually down 1.3% from 2022. So what makes this accomplishment even more impressive is that Tesla increased their sales 56%, while the overall sales of U.S. luxury segment dropped by 8%.
Isn't that wild?
So that shows how strong this is. Now, they go a step further here. With a strong year, Tesla has now been able to secure 2/3 of the EV market share in the United States. 2/3, mind you. To give you an idea how much of a commanding lead that is, Tesla's market share is more than the rest of the entire industry combined. Now, they say, now that Tesla's taken the crown as a top luxury brand in the U.S., the next question is, who will be the one to take it away from them and when?
Could it be Audi? Could it be BMW? Well, I don't know if it's going to be BMW. But
Well, they mentioned BMW. They say with BMW being more than 158,000 cars away, it looks like it will take a while for them and anyone else to come even close to Tesla's
great
figures.
plot twist of all time. It'll be Rivian. Calling it now.
Now, let's remember, though, that Tesla isn't sleeping. They're increasing production capacity well beyond what any of these incumbents are doing. I mean, you don't hear about Ford and GM, creating gigantic gigaplants like Tesla or the German incumbents. So it looks like the lead is definitely a difficult one for the rest of the guys.
All right, guys, we are at 54 minutes. We have quite a bit of questions built up.
All right, perfect.
Let's do
Hey,
some
5-minute
questions.
lightning round. Let's do this. From Van Goat Wagon on TikTok, one of our good buddies. Thank you for coming back by, Van Goat Wagon. Gentlemen, good to see you. Simon Adam on TikTok. Hi, he's a guy in the UK. Got a 2021 Model 3 done nearly 40K miles. What do you recommend, I guess, in terms of kind of repairs? How long is my battery going to last?
That is that magic question, how long will my battery last?
Yeah, it depends on how much you take care of it.
We don't have that crystal ball. All we can do is tell you what we know so far is the best way to take care of these batteries. Smuggler, it says, I drive 60 miles a day going to and from work. Would it be cost effective to purchase an older 2013 and 2014 Model S versus a newer model? You know, my advice on the older Tesla models is the warranty issues have been resolved because those annoying door handles quitting and window regulators and oftentimes even battery issues have been repaired and resolved if you've owned that car for a decade, which a 2013 you would have. So it's probably not a bad deal. Question from TikTok. Long name, but the last part of it is lithium battery. Do you talk to Richard at Rich Rebuilds? Yes, we talk to Richard, and he, of course, does videos as well and has a huge YouTube base. But yeah, Richard is definitely somebody that we, from time to time, are in contact with. The most recent one was, one of the cars that he worked on was the Tesla Lotus Roadster Mule, test mule, which is now at the Peterson Auto Museum. And someone that Rich is that he's affiliated with, Sam, actually donated that car to the Peterson Museum for 6 months or a year or so. 6 months, I think. Good job on the rebuild on that, Richard. We just got to get that thing running now. And as I've offered before, we have some AC propulsion literature and expertise, so we may be able to help you do that.
From Facebook, Art Jalonek, great info. Hey, we love to see our Facebook friends over here as well. Wilcox87 on TikTok, with Rivian having significant senior management turnover, do you think the brand will survive? Well, that was their biggest problem these last couple of years. You know, the product speaks for itself, the ideas there. RJ seems like a pretty great leader in his own right, but there was a lot of management problems. There was a lot of miscommunication. You know, if these new managers are able to pick up that slack, then yeah, I think that they can absolutely survive. The product speaks for itself, and if they can find the right people to push it, then they will.
You know, it's tough for us on the outside without being involved in the inner workings of a company like this to make any predictions about whether this was a positive or negative move. It would be negative if they had to do this because of cost constraints and they couldn't afford these high-dollar people anymore, which is, of course, not the case. And it's probably not like the Russians that are continuously changing generals because somebody is embarrassed about their lack of performance. This may be a positive thing. And sometimes in companies, making staff changes like this improves the performance of the team and of the operation. So
Sure. And
we're hoping that's what it is.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, we're on the outside, but this is still people's jobs. We hope that everybody gets the best that they can. I hope that wish for the best for everybody that's finding new avenues, and I'm wishing the best for the people that are in these new positions. So.
Stephen Rose looks like he's toured our facility and was so impressed with the cleanliness and organization. It was cleaner than most hospitals, but less diseases. Thank you. You know, we spend a lot of time making sure that it's presentable and that it truly looks like the auto shop of the future. For those of you that haven't visited, you can go to YouTube, and our feature video that pops up when you go to Gruber Motors is actually a mini drone tour of the facility. That's probably a good place to start for those of you that are curious.
But if you're in the Phoenix area, like you said earlier, you can in fact come check us out.
Absolutely.
From Scooter229, do you work on the Model 3?
We do. The issue for us as any independent shop is no one's going to bring us their car if it's under warranty. Because unlike the place you take it to for warranty repairs, we have to charge. We don't get reimbursed by the OEMs for any work that we do. Anything that comes off warranty will come to us because we can be more cost effective than the OEMs. Also, if you're looking for aftermarket improvements on your car, the OEMs aren't going to do that. They're not going to put in that automatic lifting front, latching mechanism for you. In fact, oftentimes the OEMs recommend us as an option when the customer comes to them and says, "Can you install this?" And they say, "No, it'll void warranty." Or we're going to have to charge you for it.
Yeah, right.
Or we can't even do it because we don't want to mess with it. Yeah.
It's kind of nice because, we talk about, we wish that there's more technicians in the space. At the same time, it's kind of nice to be some of the few technicians in the space where you can work that tightly with the OEMs.
One thing I would like to pop up on the screen, though, team, is Jeff Littman. There's a picture of the Charger decal that you can put in your garage. Jeff was kind enough to send us a decal of a Cybertruck and a supercharger. And
nice.
The link that we're going to pop up here is his website. And if you're interested in that sort of decoration for your EV garage, this is definitely worth pursuing. If one of you, yeah, okay, there's the link. If you can see that, he has a whole website.
Oh, that's funny.
dedicated.
So you can put it around your wall charger. and make
Exactly.
it- yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I'll be honest, I love this. And I also love it when people are able to somehow, I don't know if too many of them do this, maybe only one guy's done it, but they'll retrofit a classic old like 50s gas pump and they'll have the cable coming out of that. I think that's the coolest thing. I love that sort of retro mod sort of.
Very much so.
But this is a cool idea. This is fun.
So February 4th, the Fountain Hills Concourse in the Hills will be taking place. If you love exotic cars, it won't just be EVs, but we will have ours there. We're going to have VIN number 5 there, for example.
Ooh.
It's a wonderful place to visit on a Saturday morning. It starts at 9 o'clock, and there will be a lot of exotic cars around the Fountain and Fountain Hills in that large park, grassy area. So highly recommend attending that. It's February 4th, and I think it's free to the public. Proceeds for things that you pay for are going to the Phoenix Children's Hospital, so it's going to a worthy cause.
Very cool. Well, do we have time? Is that it?
I have one more thing.
Well, we are at an hour now.
All right, let's squeeze in one more thing then.
Ooh, here we go.
Those of you that haven't heard of NADA, it's the National Auto Dealers Association. This is a lobbying group that for decades has prevented auto manufacturers from selling their vehicles directly to end users, and they have a monopoly. In order to buy a car, you have to buy it from a dealer. Well, Elon upset the apple cart when he said, you know what? I'm not going to sell my cars through auto dealers because I know that we're not going to get equal time. They're not going to be savvy enough as to what an EV is, and they're going to continue to push ICE vehicles, so we're going to sell them ourselves.
There you go.
Well, he ran into problems in almost every single state that had NADA lobbyists, and they prevented them sometimes even from opening service centers, not just sales offices. And if they did open a sales office, like in Arizona here, they could not talk price. They could not talk to you about how to buy the car. All they could do was allow you to see some of the visuals on the wall regarding what the vehicles were. Well, apparently, Tesla, of course, now is not the only company facing this problem because Rivian and Lucid, they don't want to sell their cars through existing auto dealers. And the bottom line here is auto dealers are going to go away. This is part of this disruption. Disruption creates change, and the necessity or need for an auto dealer has gone away in a society where you buy things online. And you can work directly with a manufacturer, bypassing all the layers of profit-taking in between. Well, apparently in the state of Illinois, there is a IADA, which is the Illinois Auto Dealers Association, sued Lucid and Rivian, and to try to prevent them from selling their cars in that state. And guess who won? Lucid and Rivian won. So there's a, that is a very positive change. Now, the bottom line again here is these new auto manufacturers spend a lot of time educating customers. If you go to any of the malls like Fashion Square, you're going to see a Lucid display. Yep. You're going to see Tesla now. You're going to see Solo out on the floor. And
I've seen those.
The goal is to educate customers on what an EV is. They don't, they're not going to pull out an invoice and let you buy it right there on the floor, but education is vital. Car dealers aren't equipped to do that at the same level, nor will they because they're obligated to sell all of that ICE inventory that they're loaded down with. So to prevent the potential car buyers from educating themselves is a travesty in my mind. But what they say about this case was, the lawsuit revolved around direct-to-consumer sales models employed by EV manufacturers. All right, obviously. The dealers are against these models because they cut out the middleman, the dealers, in a car buying transaction, resulting in less revenue for the association's members. The problem that car dealers have is they don't make money on car sales.
Right.
They make money on service. And if they can't have you or get you to bring your car to the dealership for service, they go under. And if it's an EV and they don't have an EV service capability, the handwriting's on the wall. They're not going to be able to survive.
To play quick devil's advocate, that is how Tesla's service centers operate as well. We should be careful to admit that yes, it's true that service centers do still make the majority of their money as well through certain repairs. But obviously, it's still a different whole experience when you've got, it's not a dealership. It's truly a place where you can go and pick up a car and where you can drop it off for repairs. But that's pretty much all it is. And we could see a lot of incentive going to these more mom and pop sort of dealerships, you know, smaller ones. I was out in the Midwest not too long ago, and I saw just a couple of these little small dealerships, and I thought, you know, how can we make an infrastructure where these guys could survive and they want to play by the rules that we want to play by? And it seems like, you know, being able to sell online and just kind of cut through some of these middlemen might actually help them out and provide them some more opportunity. Who knows? But
well, my suggestion to them is pivot and set up your EV service capability, and you may be able to survive.
yeah, right.
The sales, that end of it is dead. I mean, when I buy something these days, 90% of the time, I go online on my screen and I buy something from Amazon, and within 2 days, I've got a guy that's carrying a $3 box often out to my place of business or my house, and it's puzzling to me. It's magic. How can they make this thing in China, transport it across the ocean, and then customs and, you know, all those duties,
Sure, right.
and then put it on a truck, ship it to a warehouse in my area, and then some guy takes it off, picks it, puts it in their truck, and hand delivers it to my house or to my place of business for $3?
It's an
magic.
unbelievable, it's an
just
unbelievable
magic.
organization. So much effort and time goes into that, and
But
you
it's
know,
the future,
well,
folks.
hey.
It is the future. We you know. So NADA, I'm disappointed that you even attempted to file a lawsuit with these two EV manufacturers. That was very poor form, and you're not going to prevail. You're not going to win. The future is that sales are going to occur directly, and actually, I enjoy it. How many people say, I want to go to a car dealership, and I'm going to enjoy having those commission-breathing salespeople rush out and converge upon me, and then I'm going to enjoy sitting there doing the let's make a deal thing where he continuously leaves the room and says, well, I got to run that by the manager, I got to run that by the manager. And then finally you make a deal, and then they try to hide and throw additional costs on there, like dealer prep costs and, you know, all this other nonsense.
Right.
People are done with that. We're done with that. We enjoy buying things online, and we enjoy consistent pricing.
And it's here. Tesla and Rivian and all these new companies are already making that happen. OEMs are starting to switch. Ford's a big person that's switching to that. We'll see. Hey, we'll see.
So it looks like our social media guys are telling us that we are out of time.
Well, thank you all so much for getting to join today. We love getting to interact with your questions. This has been tons of fun. We'll see you guys Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time for our next show. But until then, be sure to check us out on all of our other platforms. Thank you so much to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify.
I always leave some out too. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm so happy that Spotify.
Oh, did you get LinkedIn in there?
Oh, LinkedIn. Yes,
LinkedIn
please.
is in.
Yeah, so sorry. We love our LinkedIn guys as well. We'll see all of you guys 8:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time next Tuesday. I saw someone was actually from Moldova, if I saw that comment correctly. So good evening for everybody overseas.
That's correct. And I just want you guys to mention that all of the questions that we didn't get to today, there's quite a list. We are going to get to those Tuesday morning. So
Yes,
if you're
absolutely.
watching and you asked a question, Van Goat, I saw yours. We're going to answer that next show.
And
Okay?
Core Glass, we see you out there. Mart, we
Core
see you guys. We'll get to you.
Thank you for joining us. As always, we really appreciate our audience. We will see you Tuesday next week.